in track and field, when I looked at it since this conversation came up, in track and field, nobody gets a salary. No athletes get a salary. Every athlete gets a prize money and maybe a sponsorship contract. When is it? And the question I'd ask you, if you think that, based on this fact, if you think that track and field is really a professional sport, because in my view, everybody who is in a profession works for a salary. So you have an income, you have a regular income. What's your take on that fact?
You know, last year I saw something at the World Championship that I was disgusted with what happened, where they have the athletes sign a contract to say that if we use your photograph, you can hold us accountable. We can collect all the money and there's nothing you might get, and you can't come back 4, 5, 10, 15 years later to claim anything. When I look at the internet, I see my photo selling for almost $1,000, depending on which one it is. And I never get a penny from that. Years ago, when the Major League Baseball players felt like they were underpaid, even though they were making millions, they came together and they decided that they would strike. And that is when the owners started to take them really serious. I think with track and field, if the athletes decide that they want more out of the sport, they will get it.
Okay, welcome SportsGlobe fans to another one of our YouTube videos today. We have the opportunity to be speaking to Dr. Gregory Haughton. And of course, Gregory Haughton is a past, I would say, one of those big performers at Boys and Girls Championship. Well, it was Boys Champs then when he performed, but now it's Boys and Girls Championship that they call big performers at Boys and Girls Championship. Well, it was Boys Champs then when he performed, but now it's Boys and Girls Championship that they call champs. And of course, he's a Jamaican Olympian as well, medalist as well. The 400 meter was his pet event that he ran. I don't know if it still is, because I know we have seen him getting into the 5Ks and stuff like that, maybe trying to keep healthy or trying to stay fit, I don't know. And of course, he has been, on the circuit trying to motivate and uplift younger, wannabe Olympians or youngsters who want to get into the sport, or even just, want to change their life and want to turn it around just naturally. But, we have the opportunity to speak with such a great person at this time, memorable moment for Gregory for me is, the 4x400 meter where he fall and got up and got a medal. That was fantastic. But, we just want. So thank you very much, guys, for joining with us today again, and sharing one of our videos. And we're always going to invite you to leave your comments, below. And of course, let Gregory know how much you like what he is talking about or what we are talking about. And always just think. So we're going to be talking about, the title this evening is Greatness is a Daily Decision That We Have to Make. And of course, Gregory, I've been talking in a series of conversation with youngsters, mindset, legacy, and that kind of thing is what he has been doing. So I want to welcome Gregory to the SportsGlobe channel. And thank you very much, Gregory, for joining us this evening and, sharing your views with us as we try to get some answers to some of the questions. Of course, want to get into his life as an athlete, and of course get into him getting a scholarship and that kind of a thing. How did that go for him back in the day, and transition into Olympic medal, and after that, what is his career now? What is he doing now? And if athletics had helped him to get where he is at this time. And and then we also want to pick his brain in terms of this whole conversation that has been going around, especially for the Jamaican athletes, that have been barred from being transferred to Turkey. And what is his view on that? Because he would have been through the system. He knows everything that goes on, from getting from primary school to high school to college, junior college, university, that kind of a thing, and getting to getting to the World Championships and the Olympics and that kind of thing as well. So he had been through it. So he knows exactly how an athlete feel, you know, and the journey of an athlete. So Gregory, we want to thank you very much for joining us, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your time to be able to share with us as well. You know, some of these things and conversation that we constantly have, but we need to hear it from persons who feel it and have lived it.
All right. Thank you very much, Richard, for having me. And it is a pleasure once again to be here. And, you know, as long as I still have life, I'll be speaking on these issues, because I think that, you know, we need relevant information, insights that can make a difference in not just the lives of the athletes, but the parents, because they play a major part in helping some of the athletes to find their way, coaches and teachers and all of that. So I hopefully the information is your guests will find, your audience will find information interesting.
Yes.
And I will do my best to be as inspiring as I can.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that, Gregory. Thank you so much. So I just want to jump right into it and ask you this particular question that we have. Today we have, as I said, today we see so much things happening, but so you have this message that you have been going around with in terms of mindset, and mindset has been a big word on your agenda. You know, what's the message and why it is important at this time for you to be bringing this kind of a mindset to the student athletes these days? What's the reason for bringing that message to those Jamaican athletes now?
Well, the theme of the message is the keys to greatness and how to unlock the door. Yeah. Because we realize that, for me personally, when I look at the development of our student athletes, I realize that a lot more needs to be done. Because when you look at the talent pool, we have a lot of talent, but we are not seeing where the talent is being translated into higher achievements. And for that, I wanted to play my part, just like how Herb McKinley played his part by sharing his knowledge and his insight with me. I wanted to share it. So what I did, I started out in 2019 and I started traveling to different parishes to share the message. But I also wanted to see what was actually going on the ground in terms of the high school, the coaches, the administrators, to see how I could make a difference. So I started doing the tour. I started meeting with some of the administrators. I started sharing the message, the key to greatness, and the importance to embody these principles. And I also realized that not a lot of the students saw the mental preparation in terms of moving from point A to point B. And because of that, I wanted to help them to see clearer my vision, and hopefully my vision could help them to achieve their full potential in their athletic career.
What do most youngsters don't understand about, you know, making this daily decision in terms of creating greatness? What is it that they don't understand? What are you picking up?
I don't think they understand the impact their decisions will have on their career and performance. And because of that, they would just go ahead and make the decision without seeing the repercussions. And as a result of that, the results are catastrophic because they are not able to reap the benefit of their labor. Now, what I find is that these young athletes train hard, but they're not training smart. And sometimes the guidance that they're getting is not something that can help them to develop the right way. And because of that, I wanted to help them to make good decisions and to see in their minds how the decision they are making will have a positive or negative on their future. One thing we can say for sure is that as athletes, you have a limited amount of time to achieve as many things as you want. And I see the window closing rapidly on a lot of these athletes. And because of that, I wanted to make sure that I play my part in terms of mentoring and providing some of the insights and some of the books and some of the lectures, just whatever I could do to help them to understand the impact their decisions have on their life. I always say that the decision you make today navigate you to where you are. Yeah. And a lot of times they find themselves in some...
This episode is sponsored by J&J Garage. Top quality, cheap prices.
J Garage, we do excellent brakes and clutch repair. Pressure plates, flywheels, disc brake pad, brake shoes, clutches. Any job you have, cars, vans, jeeps, buses, trucks, and tractors. Just call J&J Garage, 1-876-408-3836. 887-7504 for all your pickup and delivery service throughout the 14 parishes.
Problematic situation, and truthfully, sometimes they don't even know how they got there.
What need to change, Gregory? So you're out there on the ground. You've been speaking to 20, 30 of these youngsters. What are some of the things that you really think they need to change, like right now, if you was in front of some of them and seeing what you have seen? What are some of the things that you need or they need to change? Give me like 2 things that you really think they need to change in their personal life.
Well, that's a fully loaded question, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because a lot of the students, they are doing their very best with the information they have. But when I look in the home, I realize that a lot of the culture, it comes from the home, and they're doing the very best they can with the information that they have. So the aim for me is to make sure that they understand that their current situation is not their destiny, so to speak. So what I would love for them to do is, for one, listen. I want them to listen to information and to think about it before they act on it. The second thing is, I want them to develop the ability to know who genuinely cares, because sometimes they turn over their lives to people who really can't get them to where they want to be. And I don't blame them for that as well, because I've seen a lot of people who say they are mentors. I know what the meaning of a mentor is. A mentor is one who has the lived experience to guide someone on a certain journey because they traveled the journey before. And a lot of the people who are guiding these young people, these student athletes, they have never been on that journey. In the introduction, you said that I've been to boys champs, I've been to junior college, I've been to university, I've been to the highest level, and I didn't know why I was going through that. But I think with that lived experience now, I can connect with student athletes, and that is why when I make my presentation about the keys to greatness, they understand clearly where I'm coming from, because they see the passion and they see that where I've been, that is where they want to travel.
Yeah. So you think that message of greatness is a daily decision is getting through to these youngsters?
Well, we are getting through, because one thing I can tell you, the 2 schools I visited in March was Camperdown. We saw some of the soccer girls in the lecture as well. Okay. Congratulations to the Camperdown Manning Cup team. They won the Manning Cup.
They did very well. Yeah.
Right. And I went to Jamaica College. Jamaica College was going through their challenges. But
they won jumps.
Yes, they were so focused. I could tell that was a difference maker for them, because they could understand. And the reason why I say that, Richard, because questions they were asking, I wanted to leave after an hour and a half, but they wouldn't allow me to leave because the questions were just coming. It was just coming. And that told me that they were ready for what was to come.
They're hungry.
Very hungry.
They're hungry. So it means that we have a set of youngsters who really see the sport as an opportunity for them, and you've been picking that up as well.
I do, but track and field, as you said it earlier, it's about the decision you make. You can make 90% of the right choices, and just 1% can really destroy everything you work hard for. So the key is to be as consistent as you can, because if you don't, you can have a good class 3, a good class 2, a good class 1. And poor decisions may prevent you from transitioning into the professional level success.
As you talk about poor decision, you came through it, as you said earlier. You went to primary school, you went to Excelsior, and then you transitioned into college, university, and that kind of a thing. Was there any point in time that this whole mindset shift, you had the opportunity to just, take yourself back and say, what am I doing, Gregory? I shouldn't be doing this. I need to be doing that, because I've been listening to some recording and some interviews that you did, and you said, boy, when you leave high school, you never have the requisite criteria to get you into a university right away when you leave high school. So you had to go to a junior college and that kind of a thing. So what a younger Gregory, what have you been telling yourself, to bring yourself back to, so that now, because you got to the Olympic, right? And you got to college and you are university, right? So you too, was going through, as you say, the same thing that the Jamaica College and the Excelsior students were questioning you about. You might have been questioning yourself. What were some of those questions and when did you start asking yourself those questions?
Well, I'll tell you a story. When I went to Central Arizona College, even though I won the boys championship and the Carifta Games championship, I didn't really think I was that a great athlete, or I would become a great athlete. So when I was at Central Arizona hanging out with the boys, my vision didn't go as far as Olympics or World Championship. And I remember after running one of those preseason races, I started to believe, because I really didn't expect to perform that well. And at the end of the day, I started to think about it. So
yes,
in everybody's life, there comes a moment when you really just need to slow down and think about what is it that you really want, and is it possible? And because of that, I would say to young people, you always want to be around people with positive influence. And our coach, Kurt Vanessa, was that person, because he saw something in me at the time that I didn't see in myself. And he kept on saying to me that I was a great athlete. I didn't fully believe him, but because the performances started to come, or I should say the great performances started to come, I started to believe, and then I started to change my mindset now, because expectation set in. I wanted to be in these races, and I wanted to perform at my best. And as a result of that, it just accumulated over a period of time. And then, not just that, Richard, I used to say to myself, if I'm training so hard, why should I not want everything? I didn't want my work to go in vain. So once I started looking at it that way, I started improving my performance over time, and I started to like it. And then as a result, I just felt like, this is something that I truly want.
So what is it that, because you said is almost like a lot of student athletes, we come from poor background and poor community. Education is not so big on our agenda. I'm not saying that it's not big on our agenda, but we think about it. But we're out there performing and working very hard. When is it that you pull yourself back now and say, hey, listen, if I want to perform, I got to get the education too, so I can matriculate into the university or whatever. When was that time for you?
So that time actually came when I actually competed at the Sun Angel Classic. So that was a meet in April at the Arizona State University. Okay. And they gave me lane 9 because they thought that I was just a regular person. And I remember Kevin Young was in that race because it was right after the 1992 Olympics. So we had Kevin Young in the race. So it was 1993, April of 1993. And we have Kevin Young in the race. And he was the Olympic champion in the 400-meter hurdles. We had Kip Jenkins in the race. We had a couple guys in the race. We had a guy named Anthony Price who used to compete for Camperdown. So we had some good competitors, and I won that race and ran my first 45 sub 46, and that made the difference. So everyone around me was excited about the performance, and as a result of that, I now really started to think that, look, if I can beat Kevin Young and I can beat Kip Jenkins and so on, then I could go all the way. And that was one of the moments where I truly started to believe that I could do this.
So you went back to the classroom and you say, hey, listen, I have to train hard, but I have to work hard in the classroom the same.
When it comes to the classroom, that was kind of special because I said it that in high school I didn't do my best, and as a result I ended up at a community college. It was the right thing for me, but it helped to set the foundation for me academically. And once I started to redeem myself because I felt guilty that I wasted my time at Excelsior, I wanted to redeem myself, and for that I had to go right back to basics, and I started studying. I started hanging out with the right people, and as a result I started to get the good grades. I started to get the 3.0s, and once you set expectations for yourself and you start to achieve it, after a while you don't want to drop the bar at all. And I think that is where everything started in terms of academics for me.
Academics for you. What do people don't understand about the mental demand and competing at the highest level? You want to, here you are now working hard in terms of your academic, working hard because you want to ensure that you can matriculate into a university. What people don't understand about that mental preparation and that mental drive that you would need to get you up to that high level?
That's a very good question. What they don't understand is the high level of demand that it puts on the body, psychologically, socially, everywhere you can think. Now, what they miss, Richard, is for me to be at my best, I have to make sure that I see everything clear in my mind. I have to see every step. And it takes a lot of time to really try to focus, because when you start looking at that race, so to speak, you don't see everything clear.
Yeah.
But it's repetition. Aristotle says we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not just an act, but an habit.
Yes.
Habit. And as a result, I had to make sure that my mind was so focused on what is it that I want in order to get it. So it's very exhausting. In fact, to me, that mental preparation to see my race, to run it multiple times in my mind, it is more exhausting than the training itself. And I think because it is so demanding and so exhausting, people don't want to do it. They think they can step on the track and things will come automatically. But it does not happen that way. If you want to achieve greatness, you have to condition your mind to see clearly what is it that you want. You have to see how the training translates into proper execution. And trust me, it is exhausting to put your mind to that test.
What are some of the things that you would want to say to a youngster even right now to get him to that critical stage of mind change, of mental change, in terms of where he is today, feeling like, oh, so I'm just running up and down, and start to think about this and say, hey, listen, I have a talent, I can turn it into a career. What is it that you would say to that youngster today?
I would say be patient, I think a lot of the young people, because they see someone run 45.5 in high school, they think that they too must run 45.5. And because of that, they train hard and not smart and may end up missing the opportunities.
Yeah.
So for me, I remember I wanted to make the 1992 Olympic Games, because I felt I was good enough to do so. Mm-hmm. And I got injured, and I saw, Rudolph Mighty and a couple others went off for the team, and I really felt disappointed. But when I looked at it, I saw that it was in my best interest, because it gave me enough time to mature. And one of the things I find with some of the young athletes today, that they're pushing their body so hard, they're breaking down their body, they have such high expectations because they want to get it now. And as a result of that, when they fail, they just lose everything. So I would encourage young people to be patient, make sure that they have the right people around them that can guide them. And as I said earlier, mentors, one who actually live it, one who does it, one who can share insights with you at the right moment. And I think if you stay patient and have the others that we talk about, commitment, committing to what you want, resilience, don't give up no matter what, diligence, you must take pride in what you do. I think if you embody those raw materials, as I call them, that with time you will get there.
You will get there. I want to take you back a little bit, to your journey into getting where you are even today. Give us a quick synopsis of it. Because one of the things that I want youngsters, if they watch this video, that they can actually get an opportunity to start to understand in their mind exactly, what is it needed. So I have this question that I wanted to ask you in regards to, now that you're competing, you're at your high school, you're competing at champs, the first steps that you need to take in terms of getting a scholarship, because the coach might not think that you are worthy to get a scholarship, or he might not, just like you were saying a while ago, that you are not the right persons are not around you. So what I find is that a lot of students are just competing for their schools, but the schools not necessarily caring in regards to what next after high school. So a youngster watching this right now, what would you say to them would be the next couple of steps that they need to take in terms of getting a scholarship or getting further on?
Well, first, I don't know, you're off screen, so hopefully you can come back on the screen. But what I would say to young athletes is that, and this is a very tough thing for them, to have the right people in their corner, because sometimes they really don't know who the right persons or people are. But what I would say, that they need to be very active. They should play a major part in what goes on with them. One of the things that I find with young student athletes is that they leave everything for everyone else to complete, and then they think that it would get them to where they want to go. For me, I will encourage them to make sure that you fill out your application, or if someone is going to help you, that you're there, you seek after scholarship on your own. Let your coach or your manager seek opportunities for you, but you should also try to seek opportunities for yourself. I think one of the reasons why we have so many people being left behind, so many athletes being left behind, because they expect other people to do things for them. For me, I was making the calls. I wanted to know what is this paper saying? What is it that I'll be getting? I wanted to know everything, because at the end of the day, it was my career, it was my life. And if someone is going to help me, they should help me based on what is in my best interest. And I find that a lot of the athletes today, that they do not have people in their corner who genuinely want the best for them. And sometimes you may have people who genuinely want the best, but they just don't have the knowledge and the experience to guide you to where you want to be. So it's a lot. And that is why I set up the Mentorum, the HMG initiative, the Mentorum, where we can be that guide. We can help student athletes make the right decision. We're going to train them how to think. We're going to train them to do what is in their best interest, to identify opportunities. And we will make sure that the people who are leading them, including myself, that the information that they're getting are information that is good for their growth, for their development.
Hey everyone, check out this bump-free spray. It stops the grown hair to show you just one spray. It's that easy. No bumps, no irritation, just smooth skin. Get yours today.
All right, so Gregory, let's talk about this matter that has been, plaguing Jamaica a little bit, and I guess some other countries in the world. And World Athletics has taken a decision in terms of, 11 athletes that has, formally informed them that they wanted to transfer their allegiance from one country to the next. And the country is Turkey, so Jamaican, and I think there's a Nigerian or 2 Nigerian athletes that wanted to transfer. What's your take on the whole transfer situation and transfer of allegiance situation and that kind of a thing? What's your take on it overall?
Well, my take on it is that I understand why an athlete would want to transfer to another country if they think that they can get better opportunities. So I am really open for transfer. I think that in terms of looking at what happened, where you had influx of athletes rushing to Turkey, I think that could pose a major problem in the future, because if it was so easy for everyone to relocate and go to another country and compete, that when I look at what is going on, it wasn't the best way for somebody to leave and go to another country. It was a little bit too easy, but I understand that sometimes people want to go because they see the window opening and they know that because of their age, it would be the right thing to do for them. So I'm open. I think that athletes should have the ability to go to other countries and run. I don't think that one should just outright block it. I think they as long as the rules and the procedures are followed, there should be nothing wrong with it. But in this case, something just not right, because I think what Turkey did, they played by the rules, and I think the rules were changed when the decision was already made, because there are some disgruntled countries who felt that they were being robbed. So in this case, I would say that it was unfair for the rules to change halfway in the game. I think that the athletes should have, the federations, World Athletics should have allowed this transfer and set it straight for the next time around. But I think what they did, based on what the rules said, I think that was unfair and unjust to the athletes.
Well, Gregory, with athletes, and so there's a lot of discussion in and around the whole thing about athletes wanting better for themselves. They want to be able to earn better, and especially the field events athletes are the ones who are even more, so it affects them even more, because their events are not so much of a quote-unquote premier event. So even sponsorship, whatever monetary thing that you have been paid, whether at World Championships or for the last Olympics, that gives some kind of money towards it. They think that they wasn't getting enough to sustain themselves. And hence the reason why, one of the real reasons is that they wanted to make better for themselves. They're working very hard, but they don't think they're being compensated, good enough. So what's your take on in terms of compensation that athletes are getting now? Is there something that you think, because in my view, I think that the World Athletics could have been doing something else better with their time, other than focusing on transfer of allegiance. because what they need to do, in my view, is create environment for more opportunity for athletes to work and earn. What's your take on that side of the
I think that I think discrimination is wrong. I think when I look at what the field event or the field athletes have to go through, I think it's totally wrong. I think that they perform just as hard, they train just as hard. It takes the same amount of nutrient, maybe more for them to compete. So I think that when I look at how they are treated, it is absolutely horrific. I have first-hand information in terms of athletes who represented Jamaica, who we actually worked with, and I know that it was really hard for them to really make a living. But at the end of the day, when it says all for one and one for all, it's a true statement, but you will never find the athletes them coming together and standing up for each other, because the only way things can change is when the athletes come together for one purpose and one mission, which is fairness. But what we find today is that if the sprinters are getting paid and the long distance are getting paid, nobody cares about the other athletes, and I think that is totally unfair. I also think that we need to look at the root of the problem, because when we see the opportunities that the federations have in terms of the different funding that they can get to help some of the athletes, I think that if each federation play his or her role, that a lot more can be done for the athletes. And I think that it is out of selfishness why a lot of things are not done. I think they don't respect the athletes the way they should. I think that there are a lot more things that they can do to ensure that the athletes stay home. But when they now look at the athletes and see the athletes looking for better pasture, they're not really asking themselves, what is it why someone who is loyal to my country from birth wants to go represent somebody else? And that is the question that they need to ask. But I think because they don't want to accept accountability for their poor performances, I think they now try to blame the athletes for looking for better opportunities for themselves.
I mean, looking at the whole thing in terms of, and comparing to other sports, when I look at and the reason why I said the World Athletics need to be creating opportunity for athletes to work, much more. We only have two major events, and the two major events is tied into your sponsorship contract, into your whatever you get when you compete, your prize money when you compete at these two major events. One of them come every 4 years, one of them come every 2 years. So athletes are left with just a diamond league that pretty much, it's almost like a stipend. Now, every other sport that I'd look at, basketball, American football, baseball, I mean, most of these are American sports, ice hockey, and the list goes on. Soccer, football, as it is, as we know. These sports persons get a salary, so they get paid initially, right? In track and field, when I've looked at it since this conversation came up, in track and field, nobody gets a salary. No athletes get a salary. Every athlete get a prize money and maybe a sponsorship contract. When is it? And the question I'd ask you, if you think that, based on this fact, if you think that track and field is really a professional sport, because in my view, everybody who is in a profession works for a salary. So you have an income, you have a regular income. What's your take on that?
Last year I saw something at the World Championship that I was disgusted with what happened, where they have the athletes sign a contract to say that if we use your photograph, you can hold us accountable. We can collect all the money and there's nothing you might get, and you can't come back 4, 5, 10, 15 years later to claim anything. When I look at the internet, I see my photo selling for almost $1,000, depending on which one it is. And I never get a penny from that. Years ago, when the Major League Baseball players felt like they were underpaid, even though they were making millions, they came together and they decided that they would strike. And that is when the owners started to take them really serious. I think with track and field, if the athletes decide that they want more out of the sport, they will get it. What you find is that everyone is making preparation to improve the sport, but they're not improving the sport for the athletes. They're improving the sport for the owners. And I think that if you take the athletes out of the picture, what will the owner promote? How will they get paid? They can't. So I think it comes back down to respect. I think if they appreciate the athletes genuinely, knowing that we have a small window of opportunity to make as much as we can, that they would do more. And I think it's just fair. I think the right thing for them to do is to make sure that the athletes are being compensated, and they can if they really want to. I think our federation can do a lot more to help the athletes if they want to, because the funds are there to do it. I think that until the athlete take actions, you will get more of what you're getting right now.
So are you suggesting that athletes need to have a union?
Definitely, because if the NFL didn't have a union or the Major League Baseball didn't have a union, then how would they get paid? How could they negotiate fair wages? The power is when you come together and decide what is best for you, because at the end of the day, I've never seen, well, put it this way, the presidents can stay in that position for 20, 30, 40 years. You'll never see an athlete in the business for 40 years running. They might be a coach.
Merlin tried.
Right, so I think that the athletes need to realize what is going on, and they need to come together, because one is not going to get it done and two is not going to get it done. I think when they come together to decide what is in the best interest of the athletes, I think they will get it done.
Was there any, can you recall any time when there was an effort to have an athlete union? Somewhere in the back of my mind, I thought there was an effort once to get an athletes union, and somewhere it fell apart or something. I don't know.
Think about it. We have the agent union, which means that the agents who represent the athletes, recently they came together and they form a union that represents the agents, right? But there is no athlete union. Every time someone attempts to put together a union, they get it shut down. Why? So until the athletes really decide that they want more out of this, and that by myself I can do nothing, the result is just going to be more of the same.
So there's an opportune time now that it has been discussed and athletes are seeking careers from this sport. Is about time now that they get themselves together and be at the table when the discussion is being had, so that they can be a part of the discussion and the decision making.
You know what is disappointing? They put a lot of these athletes in positions in the World Athletics and Olympic Association and so on, and they seem to be more figureheads because you don't see any talking on behalf of the athletes. You know, I understand the struggle that athletes go through, and that is why my mission is to help them to transition into the real world. And I think that when someone else really start to feel what these athletes are feeling, that they will do things to make a change. But today, it don't seem like we're there yet. So hopefully we'll get there sooner than later.
Gregory, I appreciate it. You know, sooner than later, it has to be. That's the call. And you know, as you go out and talk to these young students, athletes, I guess what you're saying to them is that, guys, each individual, each of you need to get yourself in order, prepare yourself, you know, get into that mindset, because this is a business and you have to think about it like a business, you know, get all your things together. You have to be preparing to perform. You have to be preparing in terms of getting your academics together. You have to be preparing in terms of just your whole, I mean, not just your physical, but your mental preparation when you're going into competition and that kind of a thing. So, you know, hearing that kind of a conversation that you are imparting onto these youngsters is the way to really get them start thinking about what they're getting involved with.
Indeed. And this is why I am so excited about the Haughton Mentoring Initiative, because we're going to have an immediate impact on how young people think. I think that once we roll this thing out, I think Jamaica and Jamaicans will be impressed with the impact. I think this is one of the first time we are able to cover so many grounds. And I think that we are going to start making changes where you can see athletes getting the support, they're getting the information, because I always believe that information can make a difference. It made a difference in my life. And all of those who are successful in life as athletes, you see that it is good decisions based on the information they receive. So I'm excited about this, and I look forward to talking to you and many others more once we get this thing rolling, fully up, fully ready to complete the mission, one life at a time.
definitely. Dr. Gregory Haughton, Olympian, and of course, big champs star as well. Appreciate you, and I appreciate what you're doing. I must tell you this right now, because this is exactly what the youngsters need. Jamaica don't need talent. What we need is to prepare them mentally, right, for what their talent, for the talent that they have already, because they have it. So we need to prepare them mentally, and this is one aspect of it that I really think that was lacking in terms of preparing our students athlete for what they are going to get into. So I appreciate this, that you're doing, and we'll call upon all, wherever you can go in the world, not just Jamaica, wherever in the world that you can go, because a lot of American students athlete need the same thing too, right? They're pretty much into the same boat like Jamaicans and Caribbean students. And so it was really great. And it was great talking to you today. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to following this journey that you're on. And whatever is it that we can do to promote it, let us know. Let us carry it on this platform and keep talking about it. Whenever you're going out to see the students athletes, let us know so that we can do whatever we can here to promote it. So awesome job. I must take a bow for the Camperdown and the JC wins, in the different sports that they did, because those conversations, you never know where they would have landed a lot of these students in their performance at these
Indeed, Richard. And thank you very much for having me. And I look forward to coming back again to have other discussions and other topics. And may God continue to bless and keep you and your family safe.
Same to you, man. I appreciate it.